What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast. We're talking some MLB 13-game slate for Saturday, September 1st. Lots to talk about for pitching, bunch of good options at various tiers, and there will be a show for this slate on Osmo.com, courtesy of myself and EMAC. We don't know the time just yet, but it will be late morning, probably early afternoon, somewhere in there. So subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to get an alert right when we go live. We'll try to tweet it out and give you some notice before when we decide when we're going live. So it'll be our first show together. Should be exciting. We will have spotlight hitters, pitchers, and stacks out. I'll be writing those, and then we will have ownership projections, rankings from Osmo himself, all the usual stuff. But you just get an extra show for free. So come and chat, hang out. And we should be having shows pretty much every day of the week, it looks like. Just bear with us as we go through a little bit of changes as we bring over the Fan Vice guys. I promise you it will be worth it, even if it is a little bit clunky at first. All right, let's do this. 13 games. We have Milwaukee against Washington in D.C. Chase Anderson going up against Steven Strasburg. Anderson 7,400, Strasburg 9K. I don't really have interest in either of these pitchers. I like Harper and Soto, of course, and I can actually see myself getting to a full national stack. They just may be one of these teams where I get 8 to 10% of for main stacks if they're going to go under owned. I don't see many people being on them because they only have a 4.6 run total. Wind blowing in, but I'm worried about what I'm seeing with Chase Anderson so far these last few starts. After being on him for a couple in July, I think I've jumped off. And kind of same thing with Strasburg. I think people will see the start last time out against the Phillies where the results were decent. I think he went 6 innings, struck out 5, a couple earned runs, missed a decent amount of bats. But I'm just not messing with a 9K Strasburg when I still don't think he's back to being right against the hottest hitter and Christian Yelich. You've got Shaw in there, Mike Moustakas, and then Lorenzo Cain. Like, they've got speed, they've got power. Brewers not a team I love picking on, so probably off both sides for pitching, and then just some Nationals bats. Cubs and Phillies, we've got Kyle Hendricks going up against Zach Eflin. Hendricks 8,300. I kind of give my same spiel on him every time. It's got to be a perfect matchup, and price and things just have to really come together for me to be or want to be heavy on Kyle Hendricks. My projections just don't like him. He doesn't get a lot of swinging strikes. He does a good job at limiting hard contact, so not someone I target against. I will have some Carlos Santana and Rhys Hoskins. I think those are my two favorite plays on Philadelphia, but this one's going to be light for hitting for me. Eflin, kind of the same thing, just really limits the hard contact well. Just 29.8% on the season. Doesn't do anything spectacular, but definitely can handle righties. And not enough righties in this lineup, or the projected lineup, for me to want to play Eflin, but I don't mind going with like a Daniel Murphy or an Anthony Rizzo against him. Boston and Chicago, the South Side, the White Sox. We've got Eduardo Rodriguez going up against Carlos Rodon. Rodriguez coming off a long layoff since pitching in the MLB at least. Hasn't pitched since July 14th in the majors. So he's had 2 rehab starts through 63 and 76 pitches. So as far as pitch count goes, he looks okay. I think just because I don't see him going past like 90 pitches. I think 90 maybe even a little bit generous, but let's say he gets to 90, he's 8,200. There's just so many options in this range where it's going to be tough for me to want to click on Rodriguez's name, even in a great matchup, when you've got guys like John Gray and Ponce de Leon and Castillo that are even cheaper and don't have those kind of pitch counts. So not targeting a ton of White Sox bats, if any at all. Rodon on the other side, I'm definitely going with some Steve Pearce and JD Martinez and Mookie Betts. Probably going to lay off Andrew Benintendi, although he's kind of at a trappy price on DK at 4,200. So that's a good way to get different if you're going to the Red Sox stack and leave out Benintendi. He just doesn't hit lefties that well. and people will play him because he's 4,200, but that's one way I'm going to look to differentiate. I'd rather put in a guy like Kinsler at a second base spot for only 3,800. Angels and Astros, we've got Felix Pena going up against, looks like Colin McHugh. That's what Fangraphs has, so we're going to go with that until further notice. Pena, 6,200. He's a guy that I like. I've been on. I feel like I've missed on him a couple of times. But for the most part, I think I've been on Pena. This is not a matchup I want to play Pena in. I know he had some success against the Astros at home a couple starts ago, but I'm not falling for it here. I know he's been missing bats. I know he had that 12 strikeout game, and there are a lot of righties. So there are things you can point to make you want to play Pena, but I can't do it in any sort of volume. So whatever, if I end up with 4 or 5% Pena out of 150 lineups, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to X him out of my player pool, but I know I will be probably underweight on him. And Astros bats, I will have some, especially Bregman, I like for 5,100. And then anytime I want to play one of these guys, I think that any of them have a really good matchup in the top 4. It just makes me want to stack up everyone else in that lineup, at least the top half, because, man, they're all from the right side. They all can hit righties. They all hit lefties when they're healthy. And it's just, like, I just never want to leave those guys out. I don't know if the listeners feel the same way, but that's how I feel every time I'm hand building and I'm putting in an Astros player. It's like, well, now you got to put in Altuve too, and got to get some Springer and Bregman as well. I don't know. It's just kind of a side note. I wonder if other people feel that way when you stack up a team this deep. Toronto and Miami, we've got Marco Estrada going up against Wei-Yin Chen. Estrada for 5,200. I don't mind the Estrada play here. He's a fly ball pitcher, wind blowing in, so it could be advantageous weather. Big park, and not a lot of power on this Marlins team, as we know. So I don't hate the Estrada play. Not someone that I'm going to be making a huge stand on. I would guess he's going to get double-digit ownership, and I'd kind of just want to match the field with him. Again, not making a huge stand there. And then Wei-Yin Chen, 6,700. For whatever reason, he just pitches so well at home and not as well on the road. So he's like an elite pitcher at home, at least in his last few home starts. 6 innings, 10 strikeouts against the Braves last time out in Miami. Man, there's just got to be something to his home road splits. 6,700, not getting him for free here. You're getting him against a lot of righties. He still does give up home runs. And if Wei-Yin Chen is chalk, then I'm probably going to go the other way and play some Grichuk and play some Lourdes Gurriel. But assuming his ownership is like not out of hand here, it's probably going to be very limited exposure to both Chen and the Toronto bats for me. Pittsburgh and Atlanta, we've got Chris Archer going up against Kevin Gausman. Archer is 7,200 on DK, Gausman 7,900. So Archer, I'm not interested in. Haven't liked what I've seen from him coming over from Pittsburgh. The strikeouts are going to be there for him against righties. He's going to get swinging strikes, but there's just not a lot of strikeouts in this Braves lineup. And I think this price for Archer will entice some people, but I think it's a little bit of a trap here as well. And I want to play some Freddie Freeman and Nick Markakis, even Enciarte I like. And then Acuna down to 5,200, somewhat manageable price. Not my favorite play, but in the context of a stack, which I think you can do here against Archer, I will be in for some Acuna. And then Gausman, under 8K. There's nothing bad I can say about Gausman. I think the matchup is fine against Pittsburgh. They've actually been one of the worst teams against righties over the last month. I keep referencing WRC Plus just because it's just a quick way to see kind of how a team has fared over the last month, and you get a decent sample size. But Gausman, the thing with Gausman is they pull him at random times, even coming over from Baltimore to Atlanta. He's been pulled at 86 pitches and 80 pitches in his last start, and it's not like he was getting crushed in either of those. So it's a little bit tilting. It can be tilting. I don't know what the situation was, but he shouldn't be pulled at 80 pitches after 5 innings if he's allowed no earned runs. And for whatever reason, they've done that to him a couple times. I still think I'm going to play him here for under 8K. He's just too good of a pitcher, in my opinion. And he's at home, pretty decent favorite, minus 160. And I think there are more strikeouts than it appears on that Pirates team as far as a team level. Tampa Bay and Cleveland, we've got Blake Snell going up against Shane Bieber. Snell is 10-7, Bieber 8K. I'm kind of off Bieber. I think just too many lefties here. And he's another one that I think some people will play because he's a favorite, because he's at home and it's the Rays. But the Rays just, I mean, they're not terrible, that's for sure. They do have some guys that are kind of pesky, like Matt Duffy in there. Not going to strike out a lot, but not really going to do much from the right side. And then, I don't know, like there is some power in Jake Bauers and G-Man Choi. And Bieber has allowed quite a bit of hard contact. So I think I'm going to lay off Bieber. I'd rather go to Gausman straight up. So that may be a hot take. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow when ownership comes out. And then, speaking of hot takes, I'm not avoiding Blake Snell here for 10-7. If he's going to be the guy that's the Zach Wheeler of the Friday slate and be 2% owned while Kershaw and Corbin get all the ownership, then I'm in on Blake Snell. He just looks elite right now, just mowed down the Red Sox. Just crazy swing and miss stuff since coming back from the DL for Blake Snell. And I'm of the mindset that he can dominate any matchup when he's got his best stuff. Now, will he have his best stuff? I don't know, and I prefer him at home. But looking at what Cleveland has done over the last month against lefties, they have the second lowest WRC plus at 54, a .088 ISO, a 278 on base percentage, and striking out over 21%. So not the same Cleveland team we've seen all season. Could just be variance. I haven't looked into the matchups if they've run into a bunch of tough lefties, but Snell for 10-7, that is a discount. And the total for Cleveland is only 4.1, so that's a little bit telling as well. So definitely not taking Snell out of my player pool. I want to play it by ear once I get the ownership numbers tomorrow morning. Cincinnati and St. Louis, we have Luis Castillo against Daniel Ponce de Leon. Castillo for 7,500. Definitely an option I'm going to be looking at. I like playing him when he's low owned. I think he will be somewhat low owned because of the near 5-run total for the Cardinals, and that's probably got more to do with the weather and the Cincinnati bullpen than anything. A bunch of righties in here for Castillo, and he is coming off a bad start, but that was in a Wrigley Wind game, and I just kind of throw that out when guys get rocked in Coors or Wrigley Wind games or in Texas. He threw a pitch to Daniel Murphy. That wasn't a bad pitch. I mean, Murphy got, he barreled it or whatever, but it looked more like a routine fly out that was just going to be in front of the track, and it got out into the basket in Wrigley. The wind just affects the ball so much there, so I'm not worried about using Castillo here, even coming off a bad start. I hope some people are, because he's one of the highest upside arms on this slate, especially in this lower tier. Ponce de Leon, he is 7,100 on DK. No problem using him either. So he had a really nice outing against the Dodgers, and he only went 4 innings, but you look at the pitch count, he threw 90 pitches, got 8 strikeouts against LA, in LA. Now he goes back home. I can't remember if the start where he was dominant was against the Reds. I think it was. But Ponce de Leon, there's no doubt he can miss bats, and he may not be the most efficient pitcher. He may not get you 7 or 8 strikeouts here, but for 7,100, I think he's got a decent shot at the win, and he is a minus 168 favorite. So Ponce de Leon, I'm in on Castillo. Not going to be a lot of bats on either side for me here. Baltimore and Kansas City, we have Dylan Bundy going up against Heath Fillmyer. Bundy, I think, is no more than a flyer if he's going to be low-owned. I'm kind of over Bundy. I know he gets swinging strikes, and I have to remind myself that's not everything. Sometimes pitchers can have nasty stuff, and they just can't control it. And it looks like Bundy always gives a meatball or two each game. And there are enough righties here where on a smaller slate, I'd probably have more interest in Bundy. But like even Alex Gordon in there, Merrifield's a pretty decent hitter, Salvador Perez. And the wind's blowing out, and it's 90 degrees and somewhat humid too. So all those factors, like I said, Bundy's no more than a GPP flyer if you're MMEing, not someone I would end up on in single entry or 3-max or anything like that. Philmeyer, 5,100 against the Orioles. He is 5,100, man. That's so cheap for a guy that's stretched out. So I guess he's in play just because it's Baltimore. I know the weather sucks for pitching, as I just said. But when you're 5,100, you're a righty, and you're going up against the Orioles, who will probably have 6, maybe 7 righties in this lineup. I at least have to consider you. I know that's not the best analysis. I know Philmeyer is not the best pitcher, but as an MME guy, he's someone that if he gets you 12, 14 DK points here, that unlocks a lot for 5,100, and I think he's got an okay chance to do that. Now, I will say he does get hit pretty hard by righties. On the season, Philmeyer has a over 50% hard hit rate, but under 20% line drive rate. So kind of weird to have those numbers together. But still, definitely a concern. I'm not, owner of the Heath Philmeyer fan club as far as his talent, but just at this price and throwing 105 pitches his last outing, I think he's someone you have to at least consider if he's going to be somewhat low owned. All right, Twins and Rangers. We have Jose Barrios going up against Giovanni Gallardo. Barrios for 7,800, someone I will not have any shares of just because I think Barrios, there's a pretty decent chance that Barrios is hurt. And so he's a guy I've been tracking, his velocity, just make sure to do it every single time. He's someone that I thought was hurt and came out, I think it was against the Blue Jays, and had a really nice outing. His velocity was back up. I was like, okay, I was wrong on that, but I think there's a pretty decent chance Barrios is hurt. So he was pitching in Oakland his last start, and his fastball average was under 92 miles an hour. That's the lowest on the season. Now, that wouldn't be that big of a concern if he hadn't thrown 95 miles an hour on average in his prior start. Before that, over 93, 93.4. I mean, he lost velocity in all of his pitches, and that'll probably happen a little bit in Oakland, but still a concern when you're dropping that much from start to start. And now going into Texas, I really want to pick on Barrios. Like I said, if I think he may be hurt, then I have to take some bats against him. And that's going to be Chu and Odor, Mazzara, Gallo. These guys will all be on a healthy amount of my lineups. I'm in a full stack when I attack Barrios, because if I'm right and he's nursing an injury, could get completely shelled. If not, I don't want to go with one-offs because Barrios is a really good pitcher and he can miss bats if he is 100%. Gallardo, not someone I'm looking to play. He's 5K, but he's going to be serving up a bunch of fastballs, and you're looking for ground balls with Gallardo, and I don't think he's got a great chance to do it. I will be going with guys like Cave and even maybe Josh's boy Forsythe for 2,900. That's a ridiculous price. It's like they're trolling Josh and they want everyone to play Forsythe. But Kepler, I think, is another solid play. Sano against a guy that's not going to miss bats, I think, is perfectly fine as well. I just don't want to play the Twins if they're chalk. I really prefer this Rangers side. Colorado and San Diego. John Gray going up against Robbie Erlin. Gray 8,800, Erlin 4,900. So Gray is, I think, one of my favorite plays on the entire night. Kind of the same thing with Marquez a couple nights ago. Just a really talented pitcher with a great park shift and going up against a team that strikes out a ton for the season over the last month. Like in any split you look at against righties, San Diego is one of the worst teams against them, 26% K rate against them over the last month. And Gray just has all the talent in the world. It's just whether or not he's been unlucky at times this year. He's been probably the most unlucky pitcher in the MLB. The Ks are there for the most part. That last start just looks really weird. It was against the Angels in LA, 6 2/3, but only 1 strikeout. I mean, I would be shocked if anything like that happens. In this start, I expect him to go a strikeout per inning, go 6 or 7, and just do what he's supposed to here, and that's mow down the Padres. So Gray's not going to be a secret. He's under 9K. I think he's underpriced, but I will be on him for sure. And then Erlin, I don't think he's actually terrible, but I am still worried about Arenado, Story, and LeMahieu. So I think I'd rather go with Colorado bats here than play Erlin. Seattle and Oakland. We've got James Paxton going up against Daniel Mengden. Paxton's kind of a tough one to talk about right now because we don't have a idea of what his pitch count's going to be. So he left his last start, which was on the 14th of August. So what is that, 18 days? He left it after 13 pitches, so he really hasn't thrown a full load, 116 pitches on the 9th. That's almost 4 weeks. That's really concerning for me. He's 9,300. It's an Oakland team I haven't really liked targeting against as of late. They're just looking much more patient. They've got power. Just kind of a tough matchup. And so I get it. You're getting a discount on Paxton, but who knows if he's healthy. He's one of those guys that he's left multiple starts early over his last few years. I don't really know how to deal with that in terms of projecting him. So I think I'm going to lay off Paxton. I'd much rather go to a guy I know is healthy in Gray. Mangden, 4,800. Not really stretched out, threw 64 pitches in his last outing. That was against the Astros. But Seattle, I mean, Mangden doesn't have much swing and miss himself, and Seattle certainly doesn't in their lineup. So I think Nelson Cruz is actually a really fun GPP play here for 4,100. Mangden gives up hard contact to both sides, but I doubt many people will be on Cruz for 4,100. But I really like that play. Same thing with Cano, but righty-lefty, more people will be on that. All right, last game of the night, Arizona and LA. We have Patrick Corbin going up against Clayton Kershaw. It's going to be very limited bats here. Tons of respect on both sides for these pitchers. I think Corbin's a little bit overpriced. I don't mind playing like Machado or Turner as like a duo stack, but Corbin's not someone that I'm going to be actively targeting against, at least not right now. He's just missing so many bats. The swinging strike rate is up in the 15s. It's near 20 a lot of his recent starts, and I know the Dodgers are great. I talk about how great they are all the time, but I don't think it's necessary to target against Patrick Corbin on a 13-game slate. Kershaw, 12-1. Kind of agree with his price for the first time in a while. He's made me look pretty dumb over the last few starts. I thought that he wasn't going to return to the old Kershaw, and I don't know that he's at the old Kershaw like the guy we saw 2 or 3 years ago, but he's looked pretty close. I mean, the results speak for themselves. He's getting strikeouts. He's going deep. Just looks like the stud Kershaw that kind of we've always known. So 12-1 at home, Diamondbacks 3-run total. I've got no issue using him here. I think he might come in a little bit overowned, but I will definitely have some Kershaw shares, which I haven't had a lot this entire season, and he's kind of making me eat it. So 9 strikeouts in 2 out of his last 3 starts. The other one, he had 7, at least 7 innings in all those. I mean, swinging strikes look great. The chases look phenomenal. So nothing bad to say about Kershaw. So I'm sorry, Clayton Kershaw, for not playing you. You've made me eat my words that you can't be like the old Kershaw, because he's been pretty close. All right, that's going to do it for the night shift. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Tune into the show tomorrow with EMAC and myself. Should be a lot of fun, a lot of rambling, hopefully, for both of us. I'm just excited to do a show with EMAC. I hope you guys are as well. We got a ton of content on the site. Spotlight hitters, pitchers, and stacks. All the usual ownership projections, rankings, everything that you could ask for in your DFS content site. All right, guys, good luck. I will see you tomorrow morning or early afternoon.